Boy, the lights are bright. Anyway, I would like to, by the way, I'm Dave Hoff, and this is my wife, Ruthie. And Kenny and Betty and Ruthie and I hiked, biked, and skied all over western Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, France, Italy, Austria, and even Switzerland. And we had a fabulous time with them. And they had a great sense of adventure. And also, they had a rollicking sense of humor. And that's what you need when you're traveling with somebody. So I'd like to fast forward or fast backwards, whatever you want to call it, to a ski trip that we had with Betty and Kenny in Zermatt. And as everybody knows, that Betty was tall, very elegant, and very pretty, and kind of looked straight forward with radar vision out here. And now Kenny operated below that as the court jester. And he spent his life doing that, and which was absolutely great. So when we were at Zermatt, I'm riding up with the lift. Oh, by the way, on the first run, Kenny is boogieing down the run, and as he used to ski, and if I can show you the way he used to ski, it was like this. With his smile on his face and his head back. He had his feet apart, just boogieing down the mountain. Anyway, and Betty says, Kenny, since you stopped the booze, your arthritis has gotten so much better. Now, I'm riding up the lift with Kenny, and he's got one of these kangaroo parkas with a big zipper in the front. And he's got a camera in there, and he's got this big bottle of Sea and Ski. In those days, it was called suntan lotion, but it was, I don't know what it was. Supposed to make you tan instead of burning, which was a total lie. Anyway, he picks this thing up, takes the top off like this, and squirts a whole bunch in his mouth. And he says, here, Hoff, have a little of this. And of course, I couldn't refuse. I almost choked to death. And I said, what the hell is that? He says, it's my concoction of 5 different things. He said, I tried anti-inflammatories, I tried everything else, and absolutely nothing worked. But he says, I'll tell you, this stuff is dynamite. But he says, don't tell Betty. So anyways, we're boogieing until lunch. And by the way, the skiing was kind of lousy, but it was a beautiful, warm, sunny day. We were bouncing through bumps and rocks and everything else. We get up to the restaurant about 1 o'clock, 1:30, and we go out into the deck. And Kenny, in the meantime, is unloading his camera and everything that he had in his pouch all over the table, including the Sea and Ski. So Kenny gets up to, you can hear it, you know what's coming. And Kenny gets up to go to the bathroom, and Ruthie says, I think I'll go to the ladies' room at the same time. So I'm there with Betty, and all of a sudden, the sun's beating down on us. Betty picks up the Sea and Sea, and she puts it in her hand and starts rubbing it all over her face. Now, I'm sitting there with my mouth open, and then I start coughing, which I wasn't because I was gagging. I was laughing so hard. So I had to excuse myself and head straight for anywhere that she couldn't see what I was doing. And so then we all kind of came back to the table at the same time, and Betty had no idea how she looked. And of course, Kenny comes back, and I'll tell you, when we got back at the end of the day and she looked at herself in the mirror, Kenny had some real explaining to do. So anyways, it just went on and on like this. Every trip we had, there was something very humorous that was going on. And sometimes, believe it or not, Betty pulled tricks on Kenny. Anyways, I'm going to cut it off at this point so somebody else can speak. And the great legacy is those fabulous 3 daughters and their wonderful grandchildren, and that's what they leave. Anyway, be brave.
Every young man should have known Kenny. I'm Gordon Plume, and I worked with Kenny on what was known as the copper kettle for a year or so. And then I went to work for him on Gully's End. Ken was a great mentor. If I would suggest an idea, Ken would just say, let's just do it, okay? But more about that later. But he had the idea for Gully's End, somewhat like Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin, only Ken always had his own wrinkle about doing things. And he put vertical wood posts every 8 feet so that he could nail the forms to make it simple. And that did work simple. It was great. And we would pick up stones from Red Butte on our way to work, and we'd lay them against the form and go to pouring concrete. And boy, things just clicked right along. I mean, we were going great guns. And somewhere along the line, I believe Betty said, what about outlets? Well, we were so happy, and we were making such great progress, we just forgot. So anyway, I'm sure there was a discussion between Ken and Betty, and I'm glad I wasn't there. And it got resolved probably in usual Kenny fashion. So anyway, but if you were to look at that house today, it would have a high lead standard because of how it was built. But because he did not approach anything from a standard building practice, I'm sure he would have problems with the building inspector. Now, you could say one thing about that is, or for me, that it gave me sort of a unique perspective about looking at things. And my friends know this as Gordon's way. No, this is Kenny's way, okay? And I got to do a lot of very complex, difficult things in my life, and I believe that that experience of working with Kenny really got me through it, because I never said I couldn't do anything, because Kenny always pushed me as far as I could go. So Ken forged men, and I'm going to tell you how he did it. He just gave them their head and let them do what they wanted. Now, if you look at it this way, Gully's End, he went and had all this free material. And he added these young men, and there were a lot of young men that went to work for Kenny on Gully's End. I was one of them. They were the oxygen. This wood was the fuel. And Kenny just lit the match. Okay? Now, after that was over, I moved to Washington State, and Kenny and I stayed in touch. I came to Aspen a couple of times, and he finally came up and visited me in Bellingham. And I was working on Bill Gates's house. I had 1 million board feet of recycled timbers in my yard, and his eyes just lit up, and he could just imagine what he could do with those timbers. Okay? So, but anyway, after that, he called it the Toothpick Factory. And so we had a great time when we'd get together on the telephone and we traded different things. He kept me informed of all the people here in Aspen, some of you, I think, and all of our common friends. And I would send him pictures of my work. I think he enjoyed it. And he would send me articles that he thought I would enjoy, which I did. So then, earlier this year in April, I went to San Luis Obispo for my 70th birthday to celebrate with my family. And I thought that this is great. I'm going to go see my friend Kenny. So I planned to do it on Saturday, and I'm making all the arrangements to do that. I had to work it in amongst a bunch of other things that we were doing. And then I got called from a job I was doing in Burbank, and they wanted me to show up on the job right away, and I said I would come on Tuesday. So I thought, this is great. I'm going to be driving down to Burbank. I'll go through Santa Barbara, I'll stop, and I'll see Kenny. And I called Kenny and told him that that was what was going to happen. And of course he said, I'll look forward to seeing you on Monday, Gordon, with his normal chuckle. Always had the chuckle. And you always liked it. Well, anyway, I got to just outside of Santa Barbara. I called, and Linda answered the phone and said, Kenny is with Betty 15 minutes ago. And I asked Linda if I could come up, and she said, yes, I'd love to see you. And so I did. Well, I'll tell you what, I missed Kenny, but I got a memorable evening with Linda that I'll never forget.